Well, welcome everybody. I'm here once again, Crypt Ricks. I've been thinking, and we are going to have ourselves another great interview this evening. I'm really excited for the guest I have here tonight. Somebody I'm learning a lot of things from. Definitely touching on topics that I definitely am very passionate about myself, as you guys know, and I'm very passionate about natural law and about freedom and morality. You guys know, you've heard me talk before. I've been talking about this for a while now, and it's something that is very, very close to me and something that I really want to get out there and try to teach people about, because I do think that that is the reason that the world is in the mess that we're in right now, is because just people are not they're not understanding things and understanding how natural law and all of that affects the world around us. And it's something I definitely try to educate people on, and I'm always studying and learning more things about. And so I think it's a very important topic, and I'm definitely going to be having a lot of great guests on in the future. I've got a lot lined up, and I just want to really start diving into this, because I do think it's something that people need to start learning about and looking into, at least looking into. And that's the best I can hope for. You know, I can bring you to the information, and then it's up to you guys to look at it and to judge for yourself. But I think it's very important. And so I'm not gonna babble too much. I always tend to do that at the beginning of my presentations or my interviews. I like to talk to you guys, but this is an important topic, and I'd rather get into the information, get my guest on here to kind of, we're gonna talk and just touch on certain topics, and then it's up to you guys to start digging into them a little deeper. But we have a lot of great topics to talk about. So let me just go ahead and bring in my guest. And welcome. This is Will Keller. And I just want to welcome you, Will, for first time coming on to my show. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to come on here and talk to people, start educating people on a topic that, like I was saying at the beginning, is very, very important to me, which is natural law and freedom and all of that goes under it. So this is Will Keller from the Natural Freedom League. And I just want to welcome you, Will.
Thanks, Rick. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, it's amazing. We had a great interview. A lot of people that listen to my radio show know that I had you on as a guest, and we covered all of these topics. And I got, immediately after we did that interview, and I'm not even joking, within probably 10 minutes, I got emails and I got a few messages on Messenger where people were really complimenting that interview that we did and the topics that we covered, and they wanted me to keep going down that road. They were asking if I'm going to have more guests covering these topics. So we really hit a good note on that interview. It definitely reached a lot of people, and it was probably the first interview that I did for the radio show where I got feedback that quickly. It was actually shocking to me how quick people responded and really enjoyed it. So it was amazing, and I'm super grateful that I met you. I mean, amazing stuff.
That's awesome, Rick. That's really good to hear. That means people are receptive and they're taking in the knowledge, and that's what we need. This information is critical.
Right, and that's what I keep trying to tell people. We can bring them the information and we can tell them about it, but ultimately you have to do your own research, and it takes time. It's something that takes time. It's taken me years and years to learn about all of this, and that's the problem I've had with a lot of people, is that they don't want to take the time to look into this further, or they're very set in their beliefs. And I find that's the biggest obstacle I have. A lot of people are really dug in, and they will not they don't want to budge. And I mean, so we can't force this information on people, but we can definitely present it like we do, and plant the seeds, right? And maybe a seed will sprout in a day or two, or maybe a year, but at least we're planting the seeds, is the way I look at it.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, no, for sure.
And I remember I found you through FUNL, which is Freedom Under Natural Law, and it was your presentation that was the state of freedom that I really honed in on and liked. It was an amazing presentation. I suggest that everybody check out Will's presentation. I'm going to leave a link in the description for that website, so you guys can go and check it out. Amazing presentations on there by a lot of speakers and people that were presenting great topics, and it's an amazing place to go check out. And so I'm definitely going to leave that in the description. Now we might as well start right off, talking about your presentation. Will, the way I just got some bullet points I want to hit with you. What is freedom to you?
Excellent. Yeah, no, great question. And in my presentation, I wanted to simplify the profound. I wanted to make the presentation easy to digest we're talking about freedom. The majority of people think they know what freedom is, and that's the problem, is that they think they know, but they haven't actually explored and dove deeply into the concept of freedom, what it is. Are we free? How do we achieve true freedom? So, like I said in the beginning of my presentation, communication is important, but comprehension is key. So that's why I define a lot of words. So you asked, what is freedom? And the simple definition for freedom is unrestricted free will expression. Now, what does that mean? What is free will? In the modern age, there's a lot of, you could say, the scientific realm, which is more like scientism, which is more like a belief system funded by government money. The majority of it, the foundation of it, doesn't actually have a basis in the natural world, in reality. So there's a lot of materialists, quote unquote scientists, that say, free will doesn't exist, that it's all about the firing of neurons in your brain, and that's predictable, and we don't have choice. Which, yet I do agree that we can be predictable, absolutely, but we do have free will, and that is the choice. So when we're talking about free will expression, we're talking about any action that we can perform. But when it becomes restricted, unrestricted free will expression, that is freedom. And the opposite of freedom is restricted free will expression. And when it's restricted, there is a violation that's being caused. So before we dive into what the opposite of freedom is, let's take a deeper look on freedom itself.
Okay.
So we said free will expression. What are we talking about? We're talking about rights, natural rights,
Right.
human rights, right? And even human rights, people have their own perceived definition. People think of like the civil rights movement, and that, where do rights come from? People think that rights are granted from the Constitution, or they come from a social construct or government.
Right.
And this is absolutely incorrect. This is
That's
artificial.
exactly, and that's the thing I find, Will, is that I've asked people, even people in my own family, what is a right? Just a simple question. Just go up to somebody and say, when you talk to them, give me your definition of what a right is. And I was shocked when I started to realize that people could not even give me a description of what a right is. And I'm thinking, no wonder we're losing our rights when you can't even define what you're defending. I mean, if you don't know what a right is, how can you defend it? It was really shocking.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And this is the type of deep thinking that I'm talking about, is that the foundational elements of reality, of life. What does it mean to be human? And when I say elements, this is elementary, because it's the foundation, it's the fundamental, right? The foundation of our existence. And when you ask someone, what is a right, and they can't give you the definition, it just shows you why we're in the mess that we're in, and it's due to
Right.
ignorance, lack of knowledge. So, looking at, well, first, what is a right? What is a natural right?
Yep.
A right is any action or behavior that does not cause harm to another sentient being. Now, there's an infinite amount of actions and behaviors one can take, meaning there's an infinite amount of natural rights a human being can implement. But if we use the apothetic method, which this method is an ancient method of affirmation through negation, by looking
Right.
at the negative, we can actually get a confirmation of what something is.
Right. And I remember learning about this, and what an amazing way to learn things is learning what it's not to describe what it is. And
Absolutely.
it really helps you when you start doing that type of work. And I love breaking words down too, to their root meaning and where they came from. I think people would be really shocked about the words that they speak and not even knowing what they mean or where they come from. And when you start looking into that, that's a whole new world. I love that whole aspect now of looking where words came from. So it's definitely, I agree with what you say. And so, why do you let people know? We know that there's an infinite amount of rights that do not cause harm to a sentient being. So why don't you break down what are wrongs so people can understand? It's very. I know myself what they are, but let the people know.
Sure, yeah, and just a little something to add about the method of apophysis,
Okay.
the apothetic method. Um, how I explained it to my 8-year-old daughter is if you're trying to find a needle in a haystack, what's the method that you could do to find the needle? And the answer is you would burn the hay. So that is the
Right.
process, the method of apophysis. You would burn the hay, and what is left is the needle. So
That is
that's
cool.
just that's a crude, basic analogy of what the apathetic method is. So let's see what the wrongdoings are, and there's just a few. We have murder, assault, rape, theft, coercion, trespass, and deception. Now, all of these are really one thing, and it's a taking of something. So it's ultimately theft, taking a life, taking of physical well-being, taking of sexual consent, um, the taking of free will, the taking of security in one's lair, the taking of property, and the taking of valuable information, the taking of truth, which is deception. And so all of these can be summed down to theft.
Right.
And the common denominator, actually I'll mention too, the common denominator is harm. So the taking, it's initiating harm. That is a wrongdoing.
Right.
Um, and also you can look at it as it's not consensual, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is all of these acts are an act of violence. The word violence or violation comes from violence. And what is it a violation of? It's a violation of your natural rights. It's a violation of your free will expression. So going back to freedom and looking at the opposite of freedom, restricted free will expression, meaning you're being violated, and that would be slavery. Slavery is the opposite of freedom.
Right.
Slavery, the definition is a claim of ownership, because what you do when you violate someone, for instance, we can use murder, the taking of one's life. You're making a claim upon that person. That life is mine. And you can go down the list of assault, rape, theft, coercion, trespass, and deception. So it's a claim of ownership. So now I always tell people take in the information and apply it to yourself and then apply it to the world. So do I have the right to tell Rick, you have to put this in your body or else,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I'm using coercion to try to make you bend to my will, to violate you.
Right.
So you put something in your body. And of course, the answer is no, absolutely not. I do not have that right. But yet, when we apply it to the world, we can see that government does this every day through taxation, through duress, through the threat of violence. So, through the genetic modification. And this is the big thing, too, is they use coercion and duress. And these are the two arms of how they operate, right? Because you can't use violence, physical violence, right? You can't just the government can't start killing people left and right.
Right.
It would be too obvious for people, and there would be an uprising and rebel. They need it to fly under the radar. This is what we call covert slavery.
Yeah.
Exactly. So they use coercion and duress. So if you don't put this in your body, then you can't work here, and you can't make money and provide for your family, or you can't go into the store to get groceries. So that's where coercion and duress. It's not the constant threat of violence. It's not constant violence. It's the constant threat of violence.
Exactly.
And this is how government operates.
And that's what I try to tell people is that this is how they do it. And it's always, and I've always said that it's funny because during with the pandemic is what I call it. You know, they were feeding that fear and duress into people 24/7, and then now they're kind of lightening up on that, and now we're into this war with the Ukraine. So now it's constant. They always have to keep you in that stress level, and I've noticed this for years that it's always just one thing to the next. They're always keeping you with that threat, and in so many different ways. And I see it clearly. A lot of people I know still believe, even in my own family, that they have faith in government, and I've had people say to me like, government doesn't want to hurt you, they're here to help you. And then I try to tell them like, it's so far from the truth what you're saying. They don't care about you. I try to tell people that, and I'm very shocking how many people really are betting that, you know, if they just vote the right person in, their things are going to get better. And I keep trying to tell them that this has never worked in the past. It won't work in the future, and it's definitely not going to work now. We're not going to vote our way out of this, because we are dealing with a morality problem for one, and we dealing with people that don't know their rights or what a right is. They don't even know the definition. So that's what I was saying kind of at the beginning. You can't defend something if you don't know what it is you're defending. And if you don't even know what it is, you don't even know you're losing it. And I see it every day. People losing their freedoms and their rights, getting trampled and everything like that. So I definitely, when I look at the world, I've asked people, do you think that humanity is free? And 90% of people say that we're free. And I don't see it that way at all, Will. I do not think we're free. I think we are so enslaved that it's amazing that we've gotten to where we are. But when you know what God is here, it makes a lot of sense why we are in this state.
Absolutely. Yeah. The bitter truth is that, yes, humanity, the globe, is enslaved.
Yep.
This is the human condition.
Yep.
And it's by means of mind control. This is what the word government means. Gubernare mens mentes. It's Latin for gubernare is to control, and mens mentes is the mind. So to control the mind. So when you hear people, and I'll use an example, the Freedom Convoy up in Canada. You know, everyone's rooting for freedom. You know, they think that they're winning this battle, and
they're chanting it constantly.
Exactly.
Yeah, y'all yelling freedom and that. And I'm like, they don't even know what they're chanting, to be fair. I mean, so go ahead.
Yeah, no, you're right. See, unfortunately, these people do not understand what true freedom is. Yep. And they don't understand how to achieve true freedom, because their ultimate message is a political solution, right? They want the mandates to stop, or they want government to bend to their will.
Right.
And the problem is, and then so what happened in the result, right? Then you have the police officers, the order followers came in and physically, brutally violated a whole bunch of people, and they just shut it down. And, you know, it actually worked for government's benefit because that happened. So my whole message is that government is illegitimate. It's immoral, and it should not exist.
Right.
A control system, a ruling class, kingship, you know, this has existed for eons, but that doesn't mean that it should exist.
Exactly.
Or it should continue to exist.
Right.
Why? Because government is an artificial fantasy of human beings, and human beings have been manipulated for many years. But I'm not putting this off on the manipulators, right? The social engineers, the ones that are behind the veil, that are you know, pulling the strings, and they're operating in high levels of all the institutions. The real power for change is within the majority of people. It's within the individual, because the individual makes up the collective. So everyone that's listening to our video right now, these are the people that we're trying to reach. They need to process this information and ask them the hard questions. Now, government itself, why I say it's a belief system, right? It's an artificial mental construct in the mind that people give power to because they believe in it and because they subscribe to it. All of our actions and behaviors are dictated by the information that we hold in our mind, meaning our perception.
Right.
So human beings in the aggregate are extremely separated from the natural world.
Oh, for sure.
We are
Yeah.
diseased. We're in a state of dis-ease. And this is what we need to accomplish. We need to pull back into the natural realm and actually understand what the truth is.
Right. Right. And I definitely agree with that, because that's what I've been noticing too, is that they're definitely trying to keep us. I've always said, like, I've always been close to nature, and I've talked to you about this off air too. Like, I'm very into gardening and being. I've always been somebody that's always liked to go into the woods and I'm close to nature, is what I'm trying to say. And I don't know if that gives me a different perspective on things, or if it's centering me, or what it does. But I just noticed that a lot of people are they're trying to keep us away from, to separate us from nature, if you know what I mean. They're trying to isolate people from that aspect in the spiritual side. I think that a lot of people think that there's a scientific way we're going to get out of this, and there's no spiritual side. I see a lot of people that are they're usually one way or the other. That's where we can get into like brain schisms and that, where you're more left or right brained. But I definitely see a lot of people not they're really messing with the spiritual side, trying to turn that off on people. At least the people around me. I do know that some people, they're very spiritual, but they don't have, they're missing. A lot of people are leaning left or right in their brain. And so I've always been very aware of nature and how it affects us. And then I've always known, I didn't know what the wording was. I always kind of lived by the laws of natural law. And I knew that there was laws in place given to us by the Creator that are universal. They're not man-made. And they are in place at all times. Whether you believe in them or not, they're there. And they are in function, they're in motion at all times, governing the consequences of our behavior. And I try to tell people that if you're not living in with morality, and you're trying to make the rules up as you go, we're never going to break these chains of slavery, because what's happening to us now is not instant, karma for what's, this is stuff we're seeing the effects of what's happened previously, and it's coming to fruition now. So that's how I can tell that we're not free, is because I just have to look around the world and I can see that we're not free. And I think, do you think that they're trying to, like I see it with the whole pandemic, that they want you in the house, they don't want you around people, they want you isolated. And I just see that they're trying to isolate people, and I could be wrong on this, but this is what I see, is that they're trying to break that whole gathering of people and stuff. I think they're very scared that people are going to start talking and getting this information out and asking questions. And I think that's what they fear the most. Do you see them kind of trying to get us away from the spiritual side and side of nature and that? Like, what are your thoughts?
Absolutely. It's that's the ultimate agenda. The ultimate agenda is the agenda against nature. Right. When even nature herself, when people think of this, they think of like the woods and going hiking and stuff like that. And this is also a problem, because we are not separate from nature.
Exactly.
What Rick and I are focusing on is the forces, the laws of nature that are universal, that affect everything at all times in the universe. These are the parameters, these are the building blocks of creation, of this reality that we exist in. So, and then, when we talk about freedom is based on cause and effect, the consequences of our actions. This is what is going to determine if we are free or if we are enslaved. And so it is, yes, it is an agenda against to disconnect the human, to disassociate the human spirit. The human spirit is our, direct connection to creation. And yes, the social engineers, that's why they invert everything. Even when the socially perceived crisis started, right? What was their remedy for it? Stay in the house. Don't go outside. Cover your mouth, right? It's everything that you don't want to do, right? I mean, you want fresh air, you want to be out in the sun, you need human
Exactly.
connection, all this stuff. So that's what they like to do. Social engineers are, how you say, Rick, advanced psychologists.
Yep.
They have the most important vital information in existence, and this is the knowledge of how the human psyche works and how reality operates, which
Yes.
is the laws of nature, or how we call natural law.
Right. And that's the thing that I like. And what I found really interesting, well, I'm not sure when you started looking into this too, is that you think I always thought that learning about natural law was going to be so complicated. It was some big, deep dive, and it is when you start getting into it. But I'm just saying by the definition, and I love the way that you said at the beginning, you can break it all down to don't steal. That's basically when you start looking at we have an infinite amount of rights, but there's only like 7 things that you really are wrongs that are we should not be doing. And then like when you break those down, as you said, they're a form of theft. So it's not that, it's really surprising that it's something a very simple statement, but a lot of people don't understand it at all. And then and it's really, I mean, the dark psychologists are doing a great job. And I love the way that you say they invert everything, because they do. Like I remember when you were saying, when this whole pandemic or whatever you want to call it, when this came out, everything, like nothing they did made sense to me. I was like, they're telling us to stay in. We should be outside. We shouldn't be covering our mouth, like all of these things. So they definitely invert stuff. And then when you start seeing that, you can really see that they're doing it. So,
yeah, and
it's
actually,
crazy.
I'll throw this in there too. It's not necessarily that people don't understand that, the 7 actual wrongdoings.
Right.
They can people can comprehend this, but see, the problem is when you apply it to the world, and you see that, wait a minute, how can government do what it's doing? There is no right there. They are
Exactly.
making up a magical right that they say they can do. Well, we're government, so we can take the fruits of your labor, right? So
Yep.
that's the claim of ownership. This is why we're enslaved. And
Yep.
people see where the problem is actually facing this belief system, because we have been, the generational mind control and the tradition of mind control and slavery has been going on for eons. This one concept that government is illegitimate because the belief in human authority is illusory, and
Exactly.
it's the reason why we are enslaved. This crumbles their false reality. And this is the hard part that people need to really dive deep within themselves and look in the mirror and ask these tough questions. What do I believe, and why do I believe it?
Right.
Because ultimately belief is based in dogma, and beliefs are given to people. Most of the time, the majority of our beliefs are given from our parents or friends or family,
Right.
or culture. This is why culture is one of the biggest mind control techniques that they use. They use culture to cultivate incorrect thinking.
Yep.
Because incorrect thinking will lead to incorrect behavior.
Right.
Or immoral behavior.
Exactly. And that's the problem with government. It can never be government can never be legit, because it's right from the start it's immoral. So how can
Correct.
it ever? You can't. There's that kind of negates everything once you come to that conclusion that you cannot give rights to a group of people that they don't have these rights, and we don't have the right to give them those rights. Is the thing that I really realize, is that me and Will don't have the right. We can't just tell somebody they give them these rights to do what they're doing in government. And I think that's a really big thing that because people are so rooted in their side of the government, who's going to be leading. That's a big thing for people to come over. I think that's a big hurdle, that they have to realize that there's no legitimacy to government, and there never can be. No matter how much you want it to be, how much you think it can be, there never will be.
Exactly.
It can't. By definition, it can't.
Yes, just like you said, you can't delegate a right that you yourself do not have.
Exactly.
Right? I can't go steal the fruits of labor of my neighbor's labor and say, oh well, I'm the neighborhood watchman and I'm taxing your paycheck every week.
Right.
No way. I would most likely get shot from my neighbor, right? By my neighbor. So, but yet a group of human beings calling themselves government do it every day.
Yep.
So yes, you're absolutely right. Yeah.
That's that's the one that I think people have a lot. So, and the one thing I've really been harping on too a lot with in my radio show, and I'm starting to do with interviews, is that I try to let people know that we are in this state because of order followers. That we cannot none of this could be happening if there wasn't people who don't understand natural law. They don't understand that there is such thing as morality and there's such thing as truth. And so you have these order followers that are just blindly following orders. And that's why I've been harping on a lot, because I've talked to people that are really covering these in Ottawa, the truckers convoy. They're covering in the one in Australia, the U.S., and they keep getting very upset, saying that nothing is changing. Like, we're doing all these protests. Nothing's changing, Rick. Why are we doing this? And I keep trying to tell them nothing's going to change because we're not dealing with the root problem. You're looking at a symptom and you're trying to treat the symptom hoping it's going to cure the problem, and that'll never work. You can keep wrapping a Band-Aid over something that needs stitches and it's never going to heal properly. You have to get to the root of the problem, and that's what I find a lot of people they don't understand that. So can you give people an idea, let's touch on order followers, because I think that's a big one. I think people have to really get in their head that that is where we have to work on, is trying to get these people out of that state and realize that there's, order followers is what's making this all work for these dark elite and dark psychology, whatever you want to call them, the elite, Illuminati. I don't like to give them that title because I don't think they're illuminated in any way.
Correct. Yes.
But
You're
so
right.
Can you let people know about order followers and how they are the ones that are actually the working part of this, that are making this all work?
Yeah, and to put a label on who they are, I go with just me personally. I use social engineers.
That's a great
because
one.
they are engineering through this hidden knowledge that they possess.
Mm-hmm.
They are creating a power differential through a knowledge differential. So they are engineering the way society works, but ultimately we ourselves are taking the actions and the behaviors, so we are manifesting it for them.
Right.
So they are more like influencers. I use engineers. So so good point. Order followers.
It is, and that's the thing I like asking people, which I have to give Mark Passio credit, because he did say, who is more morally culpable, the order follower or the order giver? And when I ask people this, they always say the order giver. Always. It's always been 100%. Everybody I've asked, they're like, oh, well, the person giving the order is more morally culpable because they gave the order. And I'm like, no, the order follower is always more morally culpable because they're the ones carrying out the action. And that's,
exactly.
I think we should touch on that. Can you let people know what you think about that?
No, absolutely. Actions actualize.
Mm-hmm.
And we can go deeper what I'm about to say after we talk about order followers. But this is how the real law of attraction works. The New Age variant of the law of attraction is incorrect. In fact, it does more damage knowing this and believing in this, that depending on how you feel, the feeling of that vibration will actually manifest reality. And this is absolutely incorrect. Our reality manifests through our actions.
Exactly.
The actions that we take. We do not individually create reality. We are co-creators, meaning the individual influences his or her environment and add the individual to the totality, and then this is how reality creates, right? So I just wanted to say that. Now, in saying that, order followers. What is an order follower? An order follower is a person that takes action that has been spoken by who they think is a superior human being, which that could be in the military. That's an officer, sergeant, whatever, police chief or whatever. In their mind, they think this person is superior. Mm-hmm. So they do whatever they say. And just that act alone is not understanding what conscious is, Conscious is knowledge.
Right.
And the exercise of conscious, doing the right thing. They are not doing this at all. They're completely bypassing it. They're not listening to their conscious. This is what following orders is. Now, who is morally culpable? More morally culpable.
That's a key word, more.
More, absolutely. The order, we all influence reality. We have our individual karma that, accumulates through life, that every action has a reaction. This is energy. So yes, in our individual karma, how we live throughout our life, we're definitely going to reap what we sow.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But karma itself, the word means action.
Yep.
And karma does not work instantly. It accumulates, and it's through a long period of time. So, but who is more morally culpable? And absolutely 100% the person that actually performed the action.
Mm-hmm.
Just because a quote unquote superior or a authority figure said, drop bombs on this village, or whatever, you fill in the blank, then that person goes and does that. The person that actually performs the action is responsible. It's like the old saying, right? It's like, oh, well, if little Johnny said jump off a bridge, would you do it? Mm-hmm. Right? Well, if you did it, you jumped off the bridge. It's like, so, then you are going to suffer the consequences.
Right.
So now let's apply this to the world. Who are the biggest order followers in the world? And that would be the police and military.
For sure.
I will also add that doctors, nurses, school teachers, and regular people, regular meaning supporters of government, mm-hmm. paying their taxes and just supporting and condoning government, are also order followers as well. But there's obviously a gradient, the biggest ones being the police and military.
For sure.
What are the police and military? They are the strong arm of the system of slavery. Mm-hmm. They have guns. They do violence all the time. And these are the ones that are following orders the most and creating the most harm.
Right.
So they are the ones that are they're the henchmen, the grunts that keep the system of slavery and violence in place.
Right.
Just because they hold a false belief system, the belief in authority, and they are indoctrinated by their own doing into a cult of violence and death. And
it's definitely a cult, 100%.
Absolutely. That's why they have police academy and boot camp. They have to break the psyche. They have to demoralize you. They have to strip your identity and your persona, and then they have to completely separate you, disassociate you from that, and then they build you back up into their machine that they want.
Yep.
So, yeah.
And then when you start looking into this topic even more, you find out that the elite of the world, they look at the police and the military as like it's like they're, as I've heard, that they call them their dogs. Like that's the term that they use for them. Like they laugh at them, and that's the part that I think really they should really start thinking about, is that the elite that run this whole, or keeping this all going and using the police and the military, that's their dogs, and that's how they look at them. They're just dumb dogs that do what they're told. And I'm like, and like, I think if I was a police officer or a military person, I heard that would really bother me, that they look at me so like just I'm a dog, like I mean nothing, and then to still go around and follow orders so blindly, and who cares, morality be damned, rights be damned. And I saw that with the truckers convoy in Ottawa. I watched it very closely because I was trying to see what the police would do, and I was like, I really want to see where we're at, and I got my answer very quickly, how bad it is. Then I think a lot of people during these I saw during the convoy, they were like, we just need one of you to come over to our side and join us, and then all your brothers will join us. And I'm thinking, I have no idea the mind control that these people are under, how ingrained it is, and how evil this is. It's not going to be quite that simple. just to have them
Yes.
come over. They have to wake up on their own, and that's why we're doing what we do by trying to put this information out there.
Yeah, the order followers, the police and military are the most calcified.
For sure.
Um, they're the hardest ones to waken up because of what they believe and how ingrained it is into the subconscious.
Mm-hmm.
See, the problem is that the police and military, they actually think they are the good guys.
That's
They
scary.
they think they are doing the right thing. They think they're fighting for freedom. They think they're, I mean, they're so off. It's so off. Now, every police officer and military, every single one is immoral. Every single one.
Mm-hmm.
Why? The moment they took the job is when they became immoral.
Yeah.
Because the job itself is immoral.
Right.
So, and now that doesn't mean that, an officer or a military person hears this video and does some really deep introspection and reflection, and then quits their cult.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, this is what we want. We need to reach these people. These are the people that have the guns, and these are the people that are going to be the first ones to attack and violate humans, peaceful humans. We see this all the time in protests and stuff like that. And I've said it many times in interviews, I'm not for protesting. Protesting is, pretty much begging your masters for change. I am about education.
Right.
I do events and stuff out on the streets. It's not a protest. We are sitting out there and we are in, highly dense areas, and we're trying to educate. We talk face to face, eye to eye with people and try to educate them. This is what we need to do. It has to be done through education. Why? Because all change must occur in the mind.
Yep.
If it does not occur in the mind, it will repeat and the lesson will not be learned. A good quote is, you cannot solve any problem from the same level of consciousness that created the problem. The answer is higher consciousness, which means higher awareness. This is what true awakening is all about. It's all about higher awareness. And if consciousness is a being's ability to recognize patterns in oneself and in its environment, which ultimately is pattern recognition, right? Recognizing the patterns. Well, how do we raise our pattern recognition? We need to take in knowledge and apply that knowledge.
Exactly.
And then the question comes down to, well, what type of knowledge? And it is the knowledge of how the human mind works, the human body in its totality, how the psyche works, and how the laws of nature operate.
100%. And that is what they're lacking, right? I mean, if you don't, and that's the problem is, and that's the information that they're definitely trying not to, they do not want this information getting out and people looking into this. And I mean, we could go off on a whole tangent about all the new age religions that are, and spiritualities that are coming out that we kind of touched on, like, with, there's so many new ones that are coming out, and they're definitely steering people away from, at least what I see, steering people away from knowing what natural law is. They do not want people knowing and looking into this. And and I think that's the root of it, is that we have to start reaching. I've been saying this for a couple of years now, that we're not going to, and I agree with you with the protest, we're not going to change any minds that way. I mean, it has to be done through education and good information, and start letting people look into themselves, and we can plant those seeds. And I hope that that's what interviews like this are going to do, is if somebody is in the police force or military, they're going to see this, and it just makes them start looking into it. And I really do hope that happens, and everybody starts looking into it, because I think that's the key, is once people start really understanding natural law and how things actually work, and there are laws in place that govern the universe. They govern it, and we are born with we have our natural rights that are given to us by the Creator, and that's what people need to learn. I think that's a great place to start. So, like, do you want to touch on natural law? Like, I know a lot of I've talked to people, and when I bring up natural law, a lot of them don't even understand what natural law is. As soon as I bring up natural law, they immediately go to survival of the fittest. the law of the jungle, Darwinism. I get all of that, but they don't really know what I mean by real natural law. Can you kind of just give it an explanation so people understand where we're coming from and what they need to look into?
Yes, this is crucial. So, and I get this a lot too. You know, people have inaccurate definitions of what natural law is. Now, first of all, we're talking about the laws of nature. They are intertwined, and they're immutable, meaning they do not change. They're non-man-made. They are universal. They are binding to everything. Right? If you look at, to use another like crude example, and I'm not saying that reality is a simulation, but let's just look at a video game or a simulation. There's parameters in which everything in the game itself operates under, right? This is what the laws of nature are. These are the metaphysical laws, the unseen laws. These are the energetic laws. Most people know somewhat of the physical laws of gravitation, thermodynamics, magnetism, electricity, all this stuff, right? We know that you jump off a cliff, you're going to fall, et cetera, because we can experience and see the effects. Right. Yeah. Now, we're using natural law, in the sense of morality, right? The difference between right and wrong. So it's cause and effect, meaning that if we harm and we take immoral actions, there will be an effect, guaranteed. Yep. By law. This is how it operates. So if the majority of people are immoral and take wrong behavior, then we're gonna suffer the consequences, and it's gonna lead to chaos and disorder. So, but natural law is not common law. It is not law of the land. It is not the law of the jungle or the false theory of Darwin. It's not Darwinism. Right. It's none of these things. We are talking about cosmic law. They are inherent in the natural world, put there by the creator of the universe. It has nothing to do as far as the creation of human beings, but yet it's binding and applies to us all.
100%. And that's the one thing I try to tell people too, is that natural law is always in effect, and me and my friend were talking about this actually earlier this afternoon, that natural law does not care whether or not you believe in it either. Like, I mean, a lot of people I don't believe in that. And I'm like, well, you may not believe in natural law, but it's still in effect. Whether you believe in it or not, whether you think it's real or not, these are things that are always there. It's always in place. We're bound by it, whether we want to accept it or not. We're bound by these laws. They're there for a reason. Like as you said, there are parameters of how things are, and they don't care. Natural law does not care about you. And my friend said that. He's like, so natural law does not care about you. And I'm like, exactly. It doesn't care about you. These are just the rules. And I think a lot of people have a hard time accepting that natural law does not care about you, and these are just laws that are in effect, and we have to live by them. It's the way it is. If we want freedom, we have to follow these laws.
Correct. And we can come to discover and know and understand natural law by observing the natural world and observing the effects. Now, the laws of nature in itself is a huge category.
For sure.
We were talking about freedom, so we were talking about human behavior. Yep. And this is what we're talking about. But there are principles of natural law, the metaphysical, the energetic principles, mentalism, correspondence, polarity, vibration, rhythm, cause and effect, and gender. Each of these we can dive deeper and come to a deeper understanding of the operation of the laws of nature. And that is, I mean, that's a whole nother topic that I highly recommend people dive into as well, getting to know these laws, because these are the laws upon which we operate under.
Yep. And that's, I think, a lot of the problem is that people don't know, they don't never look into it. And it was eye opening to me when you start looking into all of this. It is really an amazing journey, and my journey definitely started with shadow work, and I think that is really important. I love to talk to you about that,
Mm-hmm.
because for me that is what really started to make a difference. And I do want to do a presentation one day on my journey with shadow work, because it's something that I do every day. I sit with myself every day in a quiet room, and I confront myself, and I question my beliefs, why I believe them. And I think that that is a topic that's very scary to a lot of people. I've had a few people say that sounds really easy, to sit in a room and just confront yourself. I always tell them, try it sometime and then get back to
Mm-hmm.
me and let me know what you think, because I think it's a very scary thing that people kind of run the other way when they have to start confronting themselves. So I just wanted to get your thoughts. I know how important shadow work is for me, and how it and what it's done for me in my life. It has changed me drastically when I started doing this shadow work. So can you let people know what shadow work is and the importance of it? I think that's the foundation before you can even go further into natural law and learning about all these things. We have to start in ourselves. We have to start with ourselves, is what I'm saying.
Correct. Yes. No, absolutely. Like I said, the first principle of natural law is mentalism, meaning the all is mind, the
Mm-hmm.
universe is mental. We are in the mind of God, and or the creator, or source, whatever term you want to call it.
Yep.
And I don't mean any of the cultural religion sense, right? This is again non-man-made.
Yep.
Um, so it has to change in the mind, and it starts in the mind. So this is what the shadow work is. The shadow work is, it's a self-synthesis and a self analyzing the subconscious mind, and diving deep within oneself and shining light onto the shadow,
For
or
sure.
the specifically the insecurities, the faults, the all the dark aspects of your psyche, that are hindering you from the truth, or from forward progress, or from empowerment. And they're in the subconscious mind. This is why they're in the shadow. The subconscious mind is, people won't know it's operating a certain way until they shine their conscious awareness
Right.
onto it, because this is where habits come from. Habits are rooted in the subconscious mind. It's just automatic for people. This
Yep.
is what we're trying to say. The majority of people are in an automatic, unconscious state, and they are being immoral due to incorrect thinking that they have not addressed within inside their own psyche.
Right.
Doing the shadow work is very, it's it's not fun.
It's not fun.
It's liberating, and it's continual all through life, through this journey. There's a lot of trauma, and there's a lot of childhood baggage, meaning either traumatic experiences or belief systems, which is a big one.
For sure.
That is the biggest, right? I mean, not everyone, gets beaten by their parents, but majority of everyone has been given belief systems that
Yep.
are dogmatic and are um, not real in reality in the natural world.
Yep.
Everyone always says like, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. You think what everyone's in on it? Yes, everyone is in on it,
Yep.
because you know why, and you can see this like Santa Claus, right?
That's true.
Majority of people tell their kids that Santa Claus is real. Now here's the thing: eventually the kids grow up, they figure out Santa Claus isn't real. This was just a story that my parents told me, right,
Mm-hmm.
to keep me good, to control my behavior.
Yep.
So it's perception management, behavior control. But what happens? They grow up and they have kids, and they do the same thing to their kids.
Yep.
This is the same exact thing as the belief in human authority over other humans, i.e., government.
Exactly.
The majority of people believe that government is superior, and they are the moral standard, and that this is completely false.
Yeah.
So
100%.
this is the realization that the majority of people need to face within themselves.
Yes.
One of the biggest religions that is just a bane on existence is the theory of relativity.
Yes.
That reality is relative, meaning we create our own reality and it's different for you and me. It's relative. This is incorrect. This was a theory by Einstein, which, by the way, Einstein was a fraud. He was the Dr. Fauci of his day. The social engineers put Einstein on a pedestal and they put him out into the public eye and made him seem like a genius and all this stuff. He plagiarized most of his work. If you want to look into someone that was real, based in truth, you need to look at Nikola Tesla,
right,
or Russell Walter.
Yes.
Walter Russell.
Walter Russell.
These kind of people. But relativity, this leads to solipsism, meaning one's own mind is all that exists, right? It's all about me, which leads to egotism and selfishness. But what else does it lead to from what I just said is moral relativism.
That is the worst thing that's going on right now. It is rampant.
Human beings
oh my God.
believe that morality, right and wrong, are relative.
Yep.
They believe it's different for each person. It's different within cultural structures or social constructs,
yep,
or government, right? This is why people believe the Constitution grants rights. It does not grant rights. Your rights are inherent in the natural world because you exist.
Exactly.
Via the creator of the universe, not a piece of paper. So, a lot of the things we touched on are gonna disturb people, and that's good because we need to get people talking deeply about these. There's only two ways to enact change, and that's through technology, which is the external world, and philosophy, which philosophy is the internal world. It's the mental realm.
Yeah.
This is what you use philosophy. The tool of philosophy is to think deeply internally about something. And then we are speaking philosophy right now, Rick, you and I, and now we're using technology to get it out to the world.
Very important.
So
especially now. And that's what I try to tell people too, is that, and I was very guilty of that, as you know, I've talked to you a few times now. We've had conversations off air, and 8 or 9 months ago, I knew nothing. I knew my phone, and that's the God's truth. I had my phone, and then that is all I basically knew. I didn't know I didn't have a computer. Like I didn't have anything. Nothing that you see here I had. And I certainly didn't know technology and different operating systems and OBS. I didn't even know what that was. I'd never heard of it before. And then I realized that in this day and age, you have to learn the technology to get the message out and to do the great work. You have to, because it's such it's a world that's in technology. And then people are watching YouTube, like they're watching this, they're listening to a podcast. And so we have to, I think that's a major thing that we have to start teaching people that want to start doing the great work, is that you do have to know the technical side of it. It's invaluable from what I've learned. And it's amazing what you can do when you learn the technology. And that's where I think a lot of people are failing from what I see, is that I know a lot of people that do know what we're talking about, and they know the information. They definitely know it. They watch the videos, they've read the books, they know it. They don't know how to get the information out there. I hear that a lot from people, that they just don't understand computers. They can't learn it. It's too complicated. And I think that is also by design, that they want to keep people just addicted to their phones, which you're never going to create with. So let people know how important technology is. It's huge in this battle. They're using it against us.
Yeah. It absolutely is huge, 100%. And a lot of people that come to understand this information are still not doing the shadow work deeply, where they make justifications and excuses. We are at a very, very critical time in history. We are in the new age of Aquarius, which the Aquarian is the humanitarian. It's also an air element. It's technology and networking. So there are high and very strong energies that we are in right now for consciousness. This is why the dialectics and the propaganda is so strong, and we're just constantly seeing events play out. It's all misdirection and a distraction to keep people's focus from the causal factors and the root of the problem,
right.
What we've been talking about. So we need, like you said, Rick, the first thing to do is to take this information internally and process it and integrate into your being and understand it. Then you move from false belief into knowing.
Exactly.
And once you get the foundational of information that the belief in human authority is illusory and we are enslaved, you're ready to use your voice, the most powerful tool that we have, and speak this out into reality and existence, into the world. And the best way for us to do that is through technology. Now, I will say this. You have to start somewhere.
I did.
Absolutely. Same with me, for sure. And I was anti-technology for at least 2 years. I didn't start going public for at least 2 years because I was so anti-technology. I just wanted to go to the woods, homestead. I was in a very, it was escapism. I didn't do the shadow work deep enough.
Right.
I didn't get to my moral obligation.
I was the same way.
To help humanity. So finally, once I had that realization, then I started to go public. Now, everyone has a phone. I think more people need to start using their phone, but also acquire the knowledge of how to use powerful desktop computers and then evolve their work. But starting must be done. Someone must start. That's the 0 point, and then you evolve and learn from there and grow. But a lot of people will stay in that stuck phase because they feel like they need to get, the perfect machine. They need to get, they have to have everything perfect and the best quality and stuff, and they never start. The point is to make a plan of attack, use your attributes and your strengths, whether that is speaking, drawing, video, writing a book, doing whatever, and using the technology to get the message of morality, objective morality, natural law, true freedom out to as many eyes and ears as possible.
Exactly. And I found now that as we were talking about shadow work, I was the same way, Will. And I learned that through my shadow work is that I was coming up with every excuse not to do it. I really was. Like, I would sit there and then I started realizing that. And that was always my excuse was, well, I don't know the technology. I don't have a good enough computer. I don't know anything about, I don't even know what OBS is. What are people talking about? And I had all these excuses. And then I finally, when I started to confront them, then I realized that I definitely have a moral obligation that I know this information to start speaking it. And you can't use that as an excuse. I'm telling people you cannot let yourself fall into that trap of making excuses for yourself. And I was doing that, like I said, just for a long time. I was blaming I didn't know the technology. I couldn't understand it. I wouldn't understand it. And that's just not true. I'm living proof of that because I'm here. And I, honest to God, about 9 months ago, it's been a little longer now, I had no idea what any of this was. I didn't know how to work it. I didn't understand it. But I had to start somewhere. And that's what I did. People have to start somewhere. And, I mean, then it gets easier as it goes. It really does.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a process of evolution, right?
Yep.
We're evolving and getting better as we go.
Right.
So, yeah.
Amazing
definitely.
stuff. Yeah, so, I mean, I know I've kept you for a while, so I want to kind of wrap it up here with you, Will.
Cool.
Let everybody know. I always tell people that I'm doing the great work, and I'm very proud to be doing the great work. It means so much to me. These topics that we touched on, we could go into in depth for hours. I mean, we just kind of basically touched on them, and I hope it does spark somebody's curiosity to start digging into them. And so it means so much to me, the great work. It really does. What can you let people know what the great work is to you, and what people need to start doing to get the great work out there?
Yeah, so the phrase "the great work" is a very ancient phrase of self-development and self-mastery. doing the shadow work and evolving internally to your best moral version of yourself, right? We are here to learn and experience and grow in consciousness, and the great work. That's why it starts internally. Is about self-development and self-mastery, to be a more moral human being.
Right.
The one great work is the external version of that, and that's looking at the world and understanding and having a correct, accurate perception, a correct worldview of what's going on in the world, on this planet, right? And why it's going on, and understanding
Very
that we
important.
are enslaved. The human condition is slavery, and to contribute to the ending of slavery. This is the one great work. So, and one must understand the causal factors, the why we are enslaved, and the how are we going to get out of slavery.
Exactly, 100%. Well, and it starts with the shadow work. It really does. That was when everything changed for me, and was when I started really looking and confronting myself. And I love the way you said it's not fun. It really isn't. I had a lot of sleepless nights, and really battling with myself. And then you start to realize when you do the shadow work just how deep a lot of your beliefs come from, that you don't even realize where you got them, kind of thing. That was a big shocker to me. Was like a lot of the stuff I was believing, it was just stuff that I was told to believe. That was the thing that really
Yes.
got, I was just like, why do I believe? And yet, when you start asking yourself, why do I believe the things that I believe? And that's just what that's where I started, was that my shadow work was starting with, was why do I believe the things that I believe? And why am
Yeah.
I acting the way that I'm acting? What is causing this? And it's amazing when you start digging, if you do the work. It takes work. I keep telling people that to do the great work, it takes work, and it's hard work. But
Absolutely.
I'm so passionate about it, and I want to thank you, Will, so much for taking the time. You're always welcome to come back on. I would love to have you on as a very frequent guest to discuss these topics. So you're
Sure.
always welcome here, Will. I mean, I've learned so much from your presentation. I've met so many incredible people that are doing the great work, and I just hope that I can help and live up to. I mean, I'm gonna do my best. I mean, that's all I can try to do, and I'm trying to get the word out there. I'm trying to teach people about it. So I'm very, very fortunate to have met you and a lot of other great people. So thank you for being here.
Likewise.
Amazing. Thank you. And let everybody know, I'll give you the last 5 minutes. Let everybody know where they can find you, any information about you that you want people to know, websites, anything. The floor is yours, my friend.
Thank you so much, Rick. And I love your energy, and I love the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
And you're definitely you're a force to be reckoned with for freedom. I love it. So that's great, man. Keep going.
Thank you.
Yeah. So to the viewers, my website is naturalfreedomleague.com, and my partner John Rowland and I, we do a weekly video podcast, a live show, and that's on Saturday evenings. That's 7 p.m. Pacific time and 10 p.m. Eastern time, and we do that every Saturday. And we have guests on and talk about similar topics, and a wide variety of topics as well, all under the scope of achieving true freedom. So highly recommend people join us. We're interactive with the chat and stuff like that. John and I both have presentations. I have several presentations. A big portion of my work is focusing on conscious parenting. I think the parental aspect is so important. The majority of parents do not understand what correct parenting is,
Right.
correct moral parenting, and I focus on these deep. I'm for child rights is what I'm for.
Okay.
And a lot of parents, we were talking about belief systems being passed down, and generational mind control is a huge problem, because as adults, we all can talk about the causal factors and freedom and try to inform people and educate people. But if parents do not have this information, and they are not raising their kids in consciousness,
Right.
they are passing down the mind control, then the process, we're always playing catch up. So
Yes.
I have some great presentations on conscious parenting and what it is. Highly recommend people check that out. The FUNL Conference was a group of like-minded individuals that we came together almost 2 years ago. It was a support group and really connected, and we all started to create change, and we wanted to put action in place, and we decided to do a free virtual conference. This was online, and we came up with the FUNL Conference. That's Freedom Under Natural Law. And it went off really good. We got a really good response. There are phenomenal topics on there.
100%.
Yeah. Oh, highly recommend people go check out the replays of the presentations. The website is freedomundernaturallaw.com.
Perfect.
And also you can find the majority of my work also on the One Great Work Network. This is a network created by Mark Passio. It's got about 55 content creators, all with the message of objective morality and natural law and freedom in their own unique individual expression. So you can find me on there, onegreatworknetwork.com. And my name is Will Keller. And I appreciate you, Rick.
Oh, thank you so much. And I appreciate you so much, too. And I definitely recommend people check out the presentations on the funnel because that's how I found your work. And I found Leslie Power's work on there. I have another interview coming up with Chris Jensen for my radio show on Monday. He's going to be my guest. We're going to be covering a lot of great topics. So it's going to be great. I've met so many great people through those presentations, and I've watched them all. They're amazing. And I strongly suggest people watch those. Definitely check out Will's. I'm going to leave a link to everything that Will just mentioned. I'll leave that in the description, and I really hope you guys check it out. There's so much great information there. And on the One Great Network, a lot of great content creators on there too. So I think it's amazing. And you're doing amazing work, Will. You really are.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you so much.
Sure thing. I appreciate you, brother.
I appreciate you too. And as I said, you're always welcome back. And anytime you want to come on, I will make time for sure. And I would love to get you on to talk about the parenting. If we could maybe get you on for that in the future. I'm not a parent myself, but I have a lot of friends that are parents, and I would think that would be an amazing topic to cover and to get into.
I would love to.
Yeah. Great stuff. Well, thank you so much, Will. I've kept you. Thank you so much for taking the time. I know I've kept you a little longer than I thought I would, but I just think
no worries.
It's important topics, right? I mean, right now I think we're at this tipping point, and we really got to start getting the work out there and doing the great work, because I do think that I've been saying that for a while now. We're at this pivotal moment where it can go either way. And I mean, the evil elite, the dark psychologists, the elite, whatever you want to call them, are throwing everything at us right now. And we have to fight them back with truth and with all of what we talked about, So, I mean, I think our
100%.
work, we have to get out there and get our voice heard. So thank you, Will. And I will definitely keep in touch with you. I mean, I enjoy speaking with you. So as I said, you're always welcome back.
Excellent. Well, I'll see you soon then. And thank you to all the viewers and for your time and attention. I appreciate you.
For sure, Will. Thanks so much. And I will definitely keep in touch with you, and stay safe and keep up the great work, my friend.
Likewise, brother.
All right.
Thanks.
Take care, my friend.
All right.